I'm Pat Tormey, and today we're going to look at Data Gridview in a WinForm application. We'll create a new project, and we'll make it a Windows Visual Basic Form application. And we'll call it Data Gridview. And click on OK. Next thing we need to do is resize the form to give us a little bit of elbow room. And we want to see what the data looks like. I'm going to say Show Data Sources. Since it's a new project, I don't have any, and I have to add a new one. I can pick a database, a web service, or an object, and we'll use a database. We'll be using Northwind. And here it's asking me if I want to copy the database to the project. I don't this time, so I'll just select No. And we'd like to keep that connection. Click Next. Alright, now in this case we're going to go directly to the tables. This isn't recommended technique, but it's good enough for our demo purposes. I'm going to pick customers and their orders. And as you can see, now I have some data sources, customers and orders. The default for customers is Data Grid View, but I can also drag and drop it as details. And we'll drag and drop it as a Data Grid View. Now this is a little bit of magic that happens. The Data Grid View came into play, and so did the Data Grid Navigator. And you look and it's created a few controls down at the bottom. First, let's have a peek at how it runs. Not bad for just drag and drop, huh? Okay, so far no code, that's good. Notice I have a copy of the Northwind dataset locally, the customer binding source, the customer data table adapter, and the customer binding navigator, which is that device at the top there. And if you look behind the scenes, you can see there's some code already written for me. When I say the save item, it's going to validate, end the editing, and update the adapter. And it's going to load itself. And this is what that data set looks like. And it was created for me dynamically. And let's look at the properties here. The select command, and this is kind of important, it just actually fires a select string right into the database to return what we need. I'll execute that query, and you see we got our 91 records back. We need to take a look at some of the other things it does. In particular, let's look at the update command. Now, the update command was created, and if you see, let me make this a little bit easier for you to see. It's going to do an optimistic update, and it does this by saving the original value. Notice the where clause here, customer equals original customer ID. This is very important because it won't update things that have been changed by someone else, and it won't throw an error. But that's acceptable now as long as you understand how that works. Okay, back to our data source. Notice that the customers has a group called order under it, which is in fact another data table. Of course, I do have orders as a separate data table, but this one is connected by the primary foreign key relationship. And if I just drag and drop it onto my form, and then run it, more magic happens. Now you can see that the binding navigator that's built in controls both of the grids. And the reason for this is very easy. They're linked together by definition. Now there is something I need to show you here. And that's where the data connection is physically made and where it's stored. So I'm going to go into Settings, pop this open. You can see that's where the connection is stored. And I can test the connection. He says fine, and away we go. This is actually stored as XML. And I can show you that very quickly by popping open the app config file. This means it can be changed at runtime, will actually be changed prior to runtime, just using any XML type editor. And there you see how the data connection is stored. Okay, that's good. Now let's take a look at some of the options we have built in when we choose the data grid view. We have enable editing, adding, deleting, and enable column reordering. Now I'm going to edit the columns. And I really don't need all these columns. Let's clean this up a little bit. All right, those two should be fine. Now I'm going to set the auto size mode to display all cells. Notice the maximum input length. That can't be good. So I'm going to change this to read only, and we can edit it somewhere else. And I think in the second column we're going to let it fill. Now what this will do for us is when it runs, whatever size I have the data grid view set at, the second column is going to make it complete. Line this up a little bit and fire it up. Alright, so that's not giving you the best view of it. Let's rearrange a couple of things. First, I want to set this up so it opens in the center of the screen. That'll be a little easier for our recorded here. Make a little screen real estate. For those of you keeping track, how much code did we write? You gotta love it. Let's just dock that at the top. Dock this right under it. And now we run it. You can see the contact name actually has expanded to fill the rest of the grid, avoiding that kind of ugly space that sometimes gets stuck in there. I want to clean up the title there. Company space name looks better. Contact space name. So I'm using the header text property. Okay, that looks a little better. And now I'd like to set the alternating rows property. And this is an interesting one because you can get that nice effect you see in some data grids. And I'll make the forecolor a little dark. There we go. And that's all it took. And of course the odd number rows now have the new look to them. Easy enough so far, huh? Here you can actually sort. This is a built-in feature that allows you to sort up and down on the two columns that are available. Okay, now we're going to talk about the clipboard. And this is kind of a handy feature, so you want to remember to set it to something that you could use. I'm going to say enable auto, and we'll see how that works. I'll select a couple of rows here. I'm hitting Control C, but you can't see it. And now and just paste that in. Notice I didn't get the column headers this time because that's the option I selected in the grid. Okay? Pretty good, huh? Let's go back and see what the other option does. Enable and always includes the header text. Run it again. And let's see what the clipboard copy mode does for me now. Control C again. Bring in my handy Excel book. Paste it in, and now I have the company name and the contact name. See, these header names are going to make a difference to the end user, so you want to be sure to set them to what your user might be expecting. I'm going to go in and add the address in here just because I want to show off a feature. We'll put a couple more columns in there. And the company name we'd like to see frozen. Okay, now let's take a look at how that'll work. Just like in Excel, if I scroll over there, I'll always keep the company name available. Well, I'll narrow that down a little bit so you can see it at work. There you go. That's a handy feature. And how much coding did we do? Still nothing. Next, I want to set the default style. And I'll put the back color to info. And the fore color to just set that to black. Set that to blue. And I'd like the highlight text to be yellow. That'll make it stand. Now there's an important little nugget here I need you to see, and that's what happens when you fill in the null value. I'm going to force it to say parentheses none. And I'm doing that for a very specific reason. If there's no value there, I don't want to have a blank column. I'd like to have it display the word none. This is not always an option. I'm deciding to do it here because I want to show you how it works. This can also be done at the grid level and at the column level on demos. Since I've elected to do it at the grid level, I have a row of nones across here, but that's okay. Let's see what that looks like. See how we don't have anything in the region? And it fills in for me, avoiding that blank space. In summary, the wizards did all the work, and all we had to do is drag and drop and shape a couple things and connect a couple of the dots, and away we go. Let's take a look at how it runs. Okay, there's our beautiful color scheme that seems to work in demos. And there you have it, a completed application. And interestingly enough, we didn't write any code. And this is Pat Tormey.